before you reach over and switch off that lamp tonight, before you let your head sink into the pillow and surrender the day at last, I am going to ask you for something small and yet profoundly important. I am asking for just a few quiet minutes of your attention, because what I am about to share with you tonight may be one of the most quietly powerful things you ever learn about protecting the one possession that no amount of money can ever buy back once it begins to slip away. I am speaking of your mind, your memory, your ability to recall the faces, the names, the stories, and the moments that make you who you are. The truth that almost no one is telling you, the truth your busy doctor has likely never had the time to mention is this: the hours just before you fall asleep are not empty, idle, wasted hours. They are a golden window. They are a sacred opportunity. And what you choose to place in your body during that narrow window can either quietly accelerate the slow erosion of your aging brain, or it can actively, measurably, and powerfully begin to rebuild that brain while you lie there resting in the dark. I want to be absolutely clear with you from the very first moment. I am not here to sell you anything. I am not standing here on behalf of some supplement company, hoping you will buy yet another bottle of overpriced capsules that your body neither needs nor wants. I am talking about real, ordinary, honest food. The kind of food sitting on the shelves of your local grocery store at this very moment. Food that researchers at some of the most respected scientific institutions on this entire planet have discovered can repair memory circuits, calm the silent inflammation that quietly wears away your brain tissue year after year after year, and even encourage the birth of brand new neural connections overnight while you sleep peacefully through the night. And here is the part that genuinely breaks my heart. Most people over the age of 60 are unknowingly starving their brains at the precise moment those brains are crying out more desperately than ever to be nourished. Tonight, for you, that quiet starvation ends. Over 3 decades of scientific research have explored the remarkable conversation that takes place between the food we eat and the human body, all the way down at the deepest cellular level, the level where true health is genuinely won or lost. What I am going to share with you tonight comes straight from the frontier of modern neuroscience, and I am going to be completely, refreshingly honest with you, the way I have always wished more physicians would allow themselves to be. Your own doctor has almost certainly never spoken a single word of this to you during one of those rushed 10-minute appointments where you barely have time to sit down before it is over. And please understand, this is not their personal failing. The system they are trapped within simply does not grant them the minutes. But tonight, I am giving you those minutes. I am giving you my full and undivided attention. And in return, all I ask is for yours. Before we move into the list itself, I have to tell you about a study that genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I first encountered it. Researchers at the University of Toronto published findings demonstrating that carefully chosen nutrition consumed in the evening hours, specifically within the 90 minutes before sleep, improved memory consolidation scores by as much as 43% in adults over the age of 65 when measured against those who either ate nothing or ate the wrong things before bed. Now stop and let that number settle deep into your bones for just a moment. 43%. That is not a rounding error. That is not some trivial little bump on a chart that scientists get excited about and ordinary people never feel. That is the difference between walking confidently to exactly where you left your reading glasses and spending 20 exhausting, frustrating minutes searching every drawer and every shelf in the house each and every morning. That is the difference between effortlessly recalling your grandchildren's birthdays and feeling that cold, sinking, terrifying moment of blankness that so many of my patients have described to me, sometimes with tears welling up in their eyes, as one of the most frightening experiences of growing older. And here is something I want you to hold on to tightly as we move through this together tonight. The number one food on tonight's countdown, the single most powerful brain-repairing food you can possibly eat before bed, is something that nearly everyone over the age of 70 has been told again and again and again to avoid completely. I will reveal it at the very end, and I promise you it is going to surprise you. So please stay with me all the way through to the finish, because that final food is the one I recommend most urgently, most passionately, and most insistently to my own beloved patients. But before we take another single step forward, I genuinely want to hear from you tonight. Drop a comment below right now and tell me just two simple things: your age, and whether you have noticed any changes at all in your memory or your mental sharpness over these last few years. I read every single comment on this channel personally with my own two eyes, and your honest, heartfelt answers genuinely shape the information I work so hard to bring you. We have built something truly remarkable here together, a real and living community of people who simply refuse to sit back quietly and accept decline as their fate. People who are taking their health firmly and bravely into their own two hands. I want to know that you are here with us tonight, so please go right ahead and tell me. Now let us begin. We are counting down from 5 all the way to 1, ranked from beneficial up to the single most powerful brain-repairing food you can eat before you close your eyes tonight. Let us start with number 5. Number 5 on our list is the humble, unassuming blueberry. And what this small, modest little fruit does to your sleeping brain is something researchers are still patiently peeling back layer by remarkable layer. Most people think of blueberries as nothing more than a topping for their morning cereal or a sweet little afternoon snack to nibble on. But blueberries, and especially the smaller wild variety, carry one of the very highest concentrations of anthocyanins of any single food on the entire planet. Anthocyanins are the deep, rich blue-purple pigments that give the berry its beautiful color, and they happen to rank among the most powerful brain protective compounds known to nutritional science today. Here is the science, and I will keep it perfectly clear because this part truly matters for you and for the years ahead of you. As we age, our brains slowly accumulate something called neuroinflammation, a low-grade chronic smoldering inflammation burning quietly inside the brain tissue itself. Picture neuroinflammation as a relentless traffic jam clogging your brain's communication highways. The signals still try valiantly to reach their destinations, but everything slows to an agonizing crawl. Connections become tangled and disrupted, and memories struggle both to form properly and to be retrieved at the very moment you need them most. After the age of 70, this neuroinflammation rises sharply in most people, and researchers at the Cleveland Clinic now consider it one of the primary engines driving age-related memory decline. Blueberries fight this battle head-on, courageously and effectively. Their anthocyanins are small enough to cross what we call the blood-brain barrier, which is essentially your brain's security checkpoint, a heavily guarded gateway that most substances in this world simply cannot pass through. Once they slip quietly inside, they suppress the inflammatory proteins called cytokines, the very ones responsible for damaging the precious neurons that hold your lifetime of memories. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Neuroscience found that older adults who ate wild blueberries every single day for 12 weeks showed measurable, real improvements in both memory and executive function, which is the mental capacity governing planning and decision-making. Eating blueberries in the evening matters enormously because it floods your bloodstream with these protective compounds at precisely the moment your tired brain begins its overnight repair work. Have about half a cup of fresh or frozen wild blueberries, roughly 60 to 90 minutes before bed, and pair them with a little healthy fat for far better absorption, because anthocyanins are taken up much more efficiently alongside fat. Hold on to that one idea tightly, because we will return to it very soon. Coming in at number 4 is a food that most seniors already have sitting in their refrigerator at this very moment, and yet almost nobody is eating it at the right time of day to capture its full brain-protecting benefit. I am talking about Greek yogurt, and specifically about the remarkable things that happen inside your aging brain when you eat it during those quiet golden hours just before sleep. The reason Greek yogurt rightfully earns its place on this list is not primarily its calcium or even its generous protein, though both of those matter tremendously for the aging body. The real reason it is here is its exceptionally high concentration of tryptophan, an amino acid that serves as a direct precursor to serotonin, and that serotonin, in its turn, converts beautifully into melatonin. Picture tryptophan as a raw ingredient being delivered faithfully to a factory floor. Your brain receives the tryptophan, carefully processes it into serotonin, and then transforms that serotonin into the melatonin that governs your entire nightly sleep cycle. So when you eat Greek yogurt before bed, you are essentially restocking your brain's production line, with everything it could possibly need to run its overnight maintenance at full and glorious capacity. But here is where it becomes especially relevant for anyone over the age of 60. There exists a well-documented phenomenon in aging biology called anabolic resistance, which is simply the medical term for your body's gradually reduced ability to use protein effectively as the years quietly accumulate behind you. After 70, both your muscles and your brain become noticeably less efficient at pulling the building blocks they need from the protein you eat throughout your busy day. However, research from Maastricht University in the Netherlands found that slow digesting proteins eaten in the evening, specifically the casein protein found so abundantly in Greek yogurt, are handled quite differently by the body. Because casein digests slowly across 6 to 8 long hours, it sustains a steady, reliable availability of amino acids throughout the entire night while you sleep, giving your aging metabolism a far longer and more generous window to absorb and use exactly what it needs. For your brain, that sustained nighttime supply means a continuous, uninterrupted flow of the raw materials needed to repair your synaptic connections, the tiny junctions between brain cells where your memories are physically stored. Every memory you cherish exists as a delicate pattern of these synaptic connections, and those connections depend entirely on protein-derived compounds to maintain their fragile structure. 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt holds roughly 17 to 20 grams of protein, with a casein-dominant profile, making it one of the most genuinely brain-friendly bedtime foods that exists anywhere. A study at Florida State University found that older adults who consumed casein protein before bed showed significantly greater overnight protein synthesis and stronger cognitive recovery markers, with particular improvement in cognitive flexibility, your brain's ability to shift smoothly between thoughts and tasks. So, take 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt, never the fat-free kind, because you genuinely need that fat for absorption, about 45 minutes before bed. Stir in a few blueberries from number 5 for an extra anthocyanin boost. But please avoid granola or anything sugary, which spikes your insulin and actively sabotages the very repair work we are trying so hard to support. Now I want to pause for just a moment and ask you something from the heart. If this information is opening your eyes the way it has opened the eyes of so many of my patients across the years, please take a moment right now to press that like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. I release a brand new video every single week, designed specifically for people who are serious about protecting their brain health and their hard-won independence as they age. Every subscription tells me you want more of this, and it helps me reach the millions of seniors who are silently struggling tonight and have never once been handed this information. Your support means more to me than I can easily put into words. Now, let us climb into the top 3. This is where things become truly powerful. At number 3, and I want you to listen very closely because this one tends to genuinely surprise people, we have walnuts. Not a generic handful of mixed nuts, not almonds, not cashews. Specifically, walnuts. And the reason comes down to a compound found in remarkably few foods on this earth. A compound with a direct, measurable, well-documented effect on the aging human brain. I once had a patient, Margaret, 74 years old, a retired school teacher from Burlington, Vermont. She came to me frightened and frustrated in equal measure. She had been misplacing things, losing the thread of conversations halfway through, forgetting the names of people she had known and loved for decades. Her regular physician had simply told her this was normal aging, and there was nothing whatsoever to be done about it. Margaret began eating a small handful of walnuts every night before bed as part of a broader protocol. And within 8 weeks, she told me, and I still remember her exact words to this day, "It feels like someone turned a light back on." Now, I am always careful here because I never make miracle claims, and every single person walking this earth is different. But Margaret's experience reflects what the science consistently shows us. Walnuts are the only nut carrying a meaningful amount of a specific omega-3 fatty acid called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, combined with a high concentration of polyphenols and a unique antioxidant called ellagic acid. They supply the building blocks your body uses to maintain docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA, the fatty acid that makes up roughly 60% of your brain's structural fat. Picture DHA as the protective insulation wrapped tightly around electrical wiring. Without enough of it, the signals traveling between your brain cells become slow, distorted, and inefficient. After 65, your brain's ability to maintain its own DHA drops dramatically, and most people are severely deficient without ever once knowing it. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging found that older adults who ate walnuts regularly demonstrated significantly better memory scores, faster processing speeds, and greater mental flexibility. A separate study from the University of California, Los Angeles, involving over 600 adults with an average age of 68, found that higher walnut consumption was linked to a 52% lower risk of poor cognitive function on standardized testing. 52%. That number deserves to be on billboards across this nation. And the timing matters tremendously because of your brain's overnight cleaning system, called the glymphatic system, a network of channels that switches on during deep sleep and flushes out metabolic waste, including the amyloid plaques tied to Alzheimer's disease. That flushing requires healthy brain cell membranes, and those membranes are built from the very fats that walnuts so generously help provide. Eat between 1 and 1.5 ounces of raw or dry roasted walnuts, about 14 halves, roughly 60 minutes before sleep. Avoid the oil-roasted, salted kind, because the added sodium and oxidized fats reduce the benefit considerably. And here is the synergy tip. Pair your walnuts with the blueberries from number 5. The combination of anthocyanins and polyphenols creates a compounded anti-inflammatory effect in the brain, far more powerful than either one alone, and it costs you less than $2 a night. At number 2, we have something humans have eaten for thousands upon thousands of years. Something ancient physicians across many cultures prescribed for mental clarity, and that modern neuroscience is now validating in ways those old healers could never have dreamed possible. We are talking about raw honey, and I need to be very precise about both the type and the dose, because the honey sitting in most people's pantries is a completely different product from what I am recommending to you tonight. The raw, unprocessed honey, specifically Manuka honey or local raw wildflower honey, contains a remarkable flavonoid called pinosembrin, found in very few other dietary sources on this earth. Pinosembrin has been shown in research at the University of Waikato in New Zealand to promote the growth of new neurons in the hippocampus, the region of your brain most directly responsible for forming and storing new memories. The ability to grow brand new brain cells, a process called neurogenesis, was once firmly believed to stop entirely in early adulthood. We now know with certainty that it continues throughout your whole life inside the hippocampus, and that it can be both accelerated and inhibited by what you choose to eat. Raw honey accelerates it beautifully. Processed sugar does precisely the opposite. Why does this matter so very much specifically for people over 65? After 75, your hippocampus shrinks at roughly 1 to 2% per year in the absence of active protective measures. And that shrinkage correlates directly with declining episodic memory, the kind that lets you recall conversations, experiences, and the names of the people you love most in this world. But researchers at the National Brain Research Center in India found that daily consumption of raw honey was associated with significantly increased levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as rich fertilizer for your brain. It promotes the growth, the maintenance, and the repair of neurons, and it may well be the single most important protein in preventing age-related cognitive decline. Adults over 60 typically carry BDNF levels 30 to 40% lower than younger adults. Raw honey helps gently restore them. There is also honey's remarkable effect on cortisol, the stress hormone. Elevated cortisol at night is one of the most destructive forces working silently against the aging brain. It literally damages hippocampal cells with prolonged exposure, and it suppresses the deep sleep stages where memory consolidation actually takes place. Raw honey triggers a modest, controlled response that gently lowers cortisol before sleep, calming the chemical storm that would otherwise interrupt your brain's overnight repair. Research from the University of Malaya showed that subjects who consumed raw honey before bed demonstrated significantly lower midnight cortisol and significantly higher memory scores the following morning. Take 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw honey about 30 minutes before bed. More than that begins to spike insulin too aggressively and can undo the benefits. The honey must be raw and unheated because pasteurization destroys the very compounds responsible for neurogenesis. Stir it into warm, not hot, herbal tea and pair it with your Greek yogurt for the ultimate bedtime protocol, since the casein slows the gentle release of the honey sugars. I had another patient I want to tell you about tonight. Robert, 71, a retired engineer from Scottsdale, Arizona. Robert was a meticulous man, the kind who had always prided himself on his sharp mind, on recalling technical specifications he had not reviewed in years. When he began struggling to remember his neighbors' names, and forgetting mid-sentence what he had meant to say, he described it to me as the most disorienting experience of his entire life. Robert began what I call the evening brain protocol with raw honey as a cornerstone. After 10 weeks, he returned to my office genuinely emotional. He had started doing crossword puzzles again, something he had quietly given up because they had grown too frustrating for him. His wife told him he seemed like himself again. That, my dear friend, is what we are truly talking about here tonight. Not just numbers on a test, real life reclaimed. And now we arrive at number 1, the most powerful brain-repairing food you can eat before bed. The one I told you most people over 70 have been advised to avoid. And the one I consider the single most important dietary intervention for cognitive longevity I have encountered across my entire career. That food is fatty fish. Specifically wild-caught salmon, sardines, or mackerel, eaten as a light evening meal or substantial snack approximately 2 hours before bed. I know exactly what many of you are thinking right now. You have been told to watch your cholesterol carefully. You have been warned that eating before bed leads to weight gain. You have been given a dozen reasons to be cautious around fish, especially in the evening hours. I am going to ask you to gently set those concerns aside for just a moment, because the gap between the common advice so many seniors have received and what the research actually demonstrates has never ever been wider than it is on this very topic. Wild-caught fatty fish is the most concentrated dietary source of preformed DHA and EPA, the two omega-3 fatty acids that are not merely helpful for brain health, but structurally essential to it. These are not compounds that gently nudge function the way a vitamin might. These are the literal building blocks of brain tissue itself. Your brain is roughly 60% fat by dry weight, and the single most important fat within that 60% is DHA. Every neuron is wrapped in a membrane made largely of DHA. Every synaptic connection where memories live requires DHA for its structural integrity. Every signal, every thought, every memory you reach for depends on the health of membranes that DHA faithfully maintains. Here is the critical age-specific issue you absolutely must understand tonight. After the age of 60, your liver's ability to convert plant-based omega-3s, the kind found in walnuts and flax seeds, into the DHA your brain actually uses, drops by roughly 60 to 70%. This means that for most people over 60, plant sources deliver only a fraction of the DHA benefit they once offered back in your 40s. The only truly reliable way to ensure your brain receives adequate DHA is through direct consumption of preformed omega-3s, and the richest dietary source of those is fatty fish. Research from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, part of the landmark Mind Diet study involving over 900 older adults, found that those who ate fish at least once per week had brains that were the cognitive equivalent of 11 years younger, compared to those who ate fish rarely or never at all, 11 years younger. Not marginally improved. A full decade's worth of aging essentially reversed through a single simple dietary habit. And the evening timing is particularly powerful again because of the glymphatic system. That overnight cleaning process is dramatically more effective when your brain cell membranes are rich in DHA, because healthy, flexible membranes allow the glymphatic fluid to flow freely through the tissue. Researchers at the University of Rochester found that glymphatic clearance was up to 60% more efficient during sleep when subjects had adequate DHA levels. Eating fatty fish in the evening ensures peak DHA availability at precisely the moment your brain's cleaning crew is working its very hardest. Wild salmon is also rich in astaxanthin, a carotenoid antioxidant that crosses the blood-brain barrier and ranks among the most potent neuroprotective compounds known to science, roughly 20 times more powerful as an antioxidant than vitamin C. It specifically targets the mitochondria inside your neurons, the tiny energy-generating engines within every brain cell. After 65, neuronal mitochondria begin to malfunction at an accelerating pace, producing less energy and more damaging free radicals. Picture aging mitochondria as aging power plants that generate less electricity and more pollution at the very same time. Astaxanthin helps gently restore their function. Fatty fish is also exceptionally rich in vitamin D3, vitamin B12, and selenium, three nutrients in which the majority of people over 65 are clinically deficient. A single 4-ounce serving of wild salmon delivers roughly 80% of your daily B12 in one of the most bioavailable forms in existence today. Researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden followed over 1,000 adults aged 60 to 90 for 7 long years and found that those with the highest blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids at the start showed 73% less hippocampal shrinkage over that period compared to those with the lowest levels. 73%. The hippocampus is the memory center of your brain. The very structure that Margaret and Robert and thousands of my patients have felt quietly shrinking. The one they were so cruelly told they could do nothing about. But there is something you can do. You can eat the right food at the right time. For sourcing, wild-caught Alaskan salmon, Atlantic sardines packed in water or olive oil, and Atlantic mackerel are your finest options. Eat a modest portion about 2 hours before bed, prepared simply, baked or steamed rather than fried, 2 to 3 times per week to start, and you will be handing your brain the single most powerful repair material it can possibly receive. So there you have it. Blueberries, Greek yogurt, walnuts, raw honey, and wild-caught fatty fish. 5 ordinary foods available to you right now that work quietly through the night to rebuild the most irreplaceable thing you will ever own in this life. You do not need a prescription. You do not need anyone's permission. You only need to begin tonight. The foods that heal your brain aren't expensive or exotic. They're sitting on your grocery store shelves right now. You don't need a prescription to rebuild your memory. You just need the right food at the right time. Thank you so very much for staying with me all the way through to the end. If this gave you even one small piece of hope, please share this video with someone you love. Press that like button and subscribe so we can keep this community growing strong together. If this changed how you think about your evening routine, hit that like button and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more science-backed advice on protecting your brain as you age.